Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are locking in on a brand new edition of Zion Recap. And I'll be honest, if you're the type of person who likes their spiritual advice to be, warm and fuzzy, you might want to brace yourself for this one.
That is a very fair warning. We're unpacking the message from January 18th, 2026 at Zion CC. And the title alone, Inspecting the Walls, the Cost of True Discipleship, kind of gives you a hint.
Yeah, cost is definitely the key word there. This was not a 5 steps to a happier you talk. It felt more like a structural engineer showing up and telling you the foundation of your house is cracking and you just put a nice rug over it.
That's actually a perfect way to put it. The whole mission of this deep dive is to look at the story of Nehemiah, sure, but it's really about this idea of inspection, of vigilance, and, why we are so terrified to look at the cracks in our own lives.
It's so interesting because the source uses this ancient story from the Bible, this guy rebuilding a wall in Jerusalem, but then it just jumps into these wildly modern metaphors. We're talking shady used car salesmen, roller coaster safety checks,
And even high-stakes cyber warfare. It sounds like a strange mix, but they all point to the same kind of uncomfortable truth. What you don't inspect eventually breaks.
and when it breaks, it usually takes you down with it. So let's get into it. We start in Nehemiah chapter 2. And this isn't the big, triumphant, let's build the wall montage yet. This is the reconnaissance mission.
Right, and the setting is so important here. It's the middle of the night. Nehemiah is in Jerusalem, but he hasn't told anyone his plans yet. He gets on an animal, and he goes out to survey the damage.
He goes past the Valley Gate, the Dragon Spring, and then the delightfully named Dung Gate.
Which is exactly what it sounds like. It was the garbage exit.
Lovely. But the text makes a specific point that the debris was so thick, the animal he was riding couldn't even pass through. It wasn't just, in need of repair. It was total devastation.
It was a ruin. But here's the thing that the message really zeroed in on. Why was he doing this alone? And why at night? Why not call a big town hall meeting?
Yeah, why not get a committee of engineers? That's the usual leadership move, right? Get buy-in, get a consensus.
Usually, yeah. But in this moment, Nehemiah needed to tune out the noise. He needed an unfiltered look at reality. The message used this great analogy that I think we can all relate to, the cousin analogy.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. You have a problem. Maybe your car is making a weird sound and you ask your cousin. Or like that one friend who just wants you to feel better.
Exactly. And what do they always say? Oh, don't worry about it. It's not that bad. That crack in the wall, just hang a picture over it. You're doing great.
They validate your denial.
They introduce noise.
Yeah.
They lower the severity of the problem because they care about your feelings, but not necessarily the structural integrity of your life. Nehemiah knew that if he brought a crowd, they'd start downplaying the damage. Oh, the gate isn't that burned. We can just paint over it.
He needed to see the raw data for himself, but that brings up a huge barrier, right? I think the reason we listen to the cousin is because looking at the wreckage is, it's shameful.
It is. It's incredibly vulnerable.
If I really look at my spiritual life, my anger, my spending, my private habits, and I see a pile of rubble like Nehemiah saw, my first instinct isn't let's fix it. My instinct is hide it.
And that is the absolute pivot point of this entire deep dive. The message argues that we have fundamentally misunderstood the purpose of conviction. We think finding a fault is about shame, but it's not. It's about safety.
There was that doctor analogy which really, really landed for me.
It's so simple but profound. If you go to a doctor and they find a tumor in the very early stages, do you feel ashamed? Do you think, oh, I'm such a failure for having this cell mutation?
No, you're terrified maybe, but you were so grateful. You're shaking the doctor's hand saying, thank God you found this in time.
Because finding it means you can live. Hiding it means you die. The message also mentioned a mechanic specifically with a 2006 Subaru, which feels oddly specific.
I feel like there's a personal story there with that Subaru.
Probably. But the logic is solid. If the mechanic says, hey, your brake lines are about to snap, you don't feel insulted. You feel relieved that you didn't find that out doing 70 on the highway.
So if we translate that to our spiritual lives, when we feel that nudge, that guilt, that conviction that something isn't right, that's not God trying to embarrass us. That's God acting as the mechanic saying, hey, the brakes are shot. Let's fix this before you crash.
Precisely. Inspection is protection. But to get an honest inspection, you have to be wary of who you listen to. And this is where the sermon took that really interesting turn into, of all things, sales tactics.
The used car salesman story, this was brilliant, but also kind of diabolical. So the speaker, Pastor Roy, he talked about his past life selling cars.
And specifically, how to handle a trade-in.
Right. So you drive your car onto the lot, you love your car, you think it's worth, I don't know, 5 grand, but his job is to buy it for way less. So
Yeah.
what does he do?
He introduces noise to lower the value in your eyes. He doesn't just glance at the car, he performs an inspection. He walks around it slowly. He touches every single dent. He points to a chip in the paint and just sighs. He looks at the tires and shakes his head.
That's psychological warfare.
It is. He is introducing external voices to mess with your own assessment. By the time he's done, you're standing there thinking, man, this car's a piece of junk. I should pay him to take it.
And the connection back to Nehemiah is that he went alone because he didn't want a salesman, whether that's a critic or a comforting friend telling him what the wall was worth. He had to assess it directly with God.
Because the world, the salesman, will always try to devalue your spiritual potential. It'll point to your past mistakes, your dents, and say, see, you're broken. Not worth fixing. Just sell it cheap.
But the flip side of that is we also need to be inspecting ourselves constantly. It's not a one-time thing. Which brings us to the roller coaster analogy, which frankly gave me a little bit of anxiety.
It brings a whole new meaning to thrill ride. You referenced a documentary about theme parks like Cedar Point.
Yeah, and you pointed out something I've seen a million times but never really thought about. You know those steep stairs running right alongside the roller coaster track?
Right. We all assume those are for emergencies, like if the coaster gets stuck. And they are. But that's not their main purpose.
Their primary purpose is the daily walk. Every single morning before the park opens, an inspector walks that entire track step by step, checking every single bolt, every weld.
Because if one bolt is loose on a coaster going 90 miles per hour, people die. The stakes are absolute. And the question that was asked was just chillin', would you get on an airplane that hadn't been checked today? Even if the pilot was like, hey, don't worry, we did a really thorough check back in 2016. It was great then.
I am not getting on that plane. I'm not even getting in a taxi with that logic.
And yet, that is exactly how so many of us treat our spiritual lives. We rely on a checkup we had years ago. Oh, I got saved at summer camp when I was 15. That's great, but that was 10 years ago. What about the bolts today?
That's the whole concept of drift. Bolts don't just unscrew instantly, they vibrate loose over time. If you aren't walking the track daily, you miss the slow decay until the wheel flies off.
And spiritual choices, they affect eternity. They affect your kids, the people around you. Just like that, inspector, vigilance is the price of safety.
Okay, so let's say we do the inspection. We ignore the cousin, we ignore the salesman, we walk the track, and we find a crack in the wall. Now what? Now we have to fix it. And this is where the message shifted to counting the cost, because fixing the wall is not cheap.
This is a really important distinction the sermon made. Salvation is free. It's a gift. You can't earn it. But discipleship, the act of actually following Jesus and rebuilding your life, that costs you everything.
And to prove it, the source material went straight to Luke 14.26. And I have to be honest, every time I read this verse, I cringe a little. It's the one where Jesus says, if anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple.
It just stops you in your tracks, doesn't it?
It sounds horrifying. I mean, hate your mother, that sounds like a cult. That sounds like the opposite of a God of love. How do we even begin to square that?
It's so crucial to understand the language here. In the biblical context, the word hate is often used in a comparative sense. It means to love less.
Okay, can you give me an example of that?
Sure. Look at Jacob in the Old Testament. The scripture says Jacob hated his wife Leah, but loved Rachel. But if you actually look at the story, Jacob lived with Leah. He had children with her. He provided for her. He didn't abuse her. But his love for Rachel was so consuming, so huge, that by comparison, his affection for Leah looked like hate.
So Jesus isn't saying treat your family like garbage.
Not at all. He's saying that your allegiance to him must be so supreme, so absolute, that every other attachment looks like a distant second. He refuses to be in second place. He refuses to be a runner-up for your heart.
Which leads to what was probably the most memorable image for me, the grocery store gospel.
Oh, this is such a sharp critique of, modern culture.
He described how we treat our faith like a trip to the supermarket. We push our little cart down the aisle. We see a box of blessings. Ooh, yeah, I'll take 2 of those. We see peace of mind, put that in the cart. Healing, definitely need that.
But then you turn the corner to the next aisle, and on the shelf, you see conviction. You see self-denial. You see hating your own life.
And we look at the price tag and go, oof, that's a bit steep. That's out of my budget. I think I'll just stick with the blessings, thanks.
We try to curate a faith that fits our preferences,
Yeah.
but the insight here is about who is actually in charge. When you shop at a grocery store, you are the customer. The store exists to serve you.
Right. The customer is always right.
But the message reminds us, we are not the customer in the kingdom of God. We don't invite Jesus into our world to follow our rules. We are invited into his kingdom.
It's an all or nothing deal. You can't just take the benefits and leave the hard stuff on the shelf. That's not discipleship. It's just consumerism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even if you commit to the cost, even if you say, okay, I'm all in, there is still a danger. And this is where that story about the nuclear facility came in,
Yeah.
the Stuxnet story. It's terrifying because it shows how fragile even the best defenses are.
Yeah, let's break this down. So this story is about a nation developing nuclear weapons. They know they're a target, so they build their facility deep underground. They have physical guards, blast doors, everything.
And critically, they use what's called an air gap.
Explain that for the non-techies out there.
An air gap just means the computer system is physically disconnected from the internet. No Wi-Fi, no Ethernet cables to the outside. In theory, you cannot hack it because there's no road in. It's an island.
So it should have been invincible, but it wasn't.
Because humans work there. And humans are curious. And humans make mistakes.
The story goes that a virus was loaded onto these innocent-looking USB drives, thumb drives, and they were just scattered in public places where the scientists and workers hung out, maybe a parking lot, a coffee shop.
Think about the psychology of that. You see a USB drive on the ground. You pick it up. Maybe you're curious what's on it. Or maybe you just think, hey, free thumb drive.
So a scientist picks it up, puts it in his pocket, walks past all the guards, past the blast doors, goes down into the secure bunker, and plugs it into his workstation.
And boom, the air gap is bridged. The virus, Stuxnet, activates. It spreads through the system and literally destroys the centrifuges, the machines that enrich uranium. It spun them so fast they tore themselves apart.
All that security, all those walls, bypassed by one tiny piece of plastic in someone's pocket.
And that is the spiritual warning. You can have big walls. You can go to church every Sunday. You can memorize scripture. You can look like a fortress. But if you are not vigilant about the small things, the USB drives, you are vulnerable.
It's the stuff we label as harmless, right? A little bit of office gossip, a little bit of unethical financial stuff, because everyone does it.
Yeah.
A little bit of lustful entertainment because I'm an adult, I can handle it.
We think it's just a USB drive. It's small. But once you plug it into the terminal of your heart, it bypasses your defenses. It's a Trojan horse. We have to be so careful what we allow to cross the threshold of our minds.
So we've covered a lot. We need inspection. We need to stop listening to the comforting lies of the cousin. We need to pay the full cost, not just shop for blessings. And we need to watch out for the small viruses.
It's a heavy list.
So how do we actually do this? What's the practical takeaway?
The conclusion of the message went right back to Nehemiah chapter 3. In the text, when they finally start rebuilding, Nehemiah doesn't hire some massive contractor. He assigns specific sections of the wall to specific families.
I love that detail. It wasn't someone else will fix it. It was, hey, you fix the section of wall that's right in front of your house.
It is the ultimate call to personal responsibility. The speaker was very direct about this. He said you cannot rely on the pastor to fix your family. You can't rely on the youth leader, he mentioned a guy named Uriel, to fix your kids.
He literally said, don't bring your kids so Uriel can fix them. Don't bring your husband so Roy can fix them.
Each head of household, each individual, has to inspect and repair their own section. If you don't build your wall, your family is unsafe. It's on you.
And he marked the date, January 18th, 2026, as a line in the sand. A day of decision to stop loving other things more than Jesus.
He closed with an image that I'm still chewing on. He talked about the old man, the biblical concept of our old sinful nature that died when we decided to follow Christ.
Right, the Apostle Paul says the old self was crucified. It's dead.
But the speaker pointed out that we keep trying to perform CPR on the corpse.
That is such a grotesque and perfect image.
We keep trying to resuscitate the very thing that was killing us. We give it mouth to mouth. We pump its chest.
It really forces a provocative question for anyone listening. What is the breath you're using to keep your old self alive? Is it your browsing history? Is it a relationship you know you shouldn't be in? Is it resentment you refuse to let go of?
Exactly. What would it look like to finally stop the CPR? To step back and let the old version of you stay dead so the new version can actually live?
That is. Well, that's something I think we all need to sit with for a minute.
Absolutely.
Look, this deep dive was a lot. We covered some heavy ground. If you're listening to this and you're feeling that mechanics diagnostic light up on your dashboard, if you're feeling that conviction, don't just ignore it. Don't go to the cousin.
Talk to someone who will tell you the truth.
Exactly. If you need clarification or want to ask some of these hard questions in a safe place, Zion CC has small groups that meet on Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m.
And it is widely considered the best place to actually process this stuff with real people. They would love to talk with you in person.
And obviously, we are just summarizing here. We miss the nuance, the delivery, all of it. To hear the whole message, head over to Zion CC's YouTube page. Search for the video titled Inspecting the Walls.
And if you want to catch the latest sermon live, you can join Zion CC on Sundays at either 9 or 11 a.m.
One quick housekeeping note from the announcements. There is a couples breakfast coming up on February 14th at Essen House. So if you want to inspect the walls of your relationship over some pancakes, make sure to sign up for that.
Pancakes and relationship building. Can't go wrong there.
Before we sign off, just a reminder that Zion Recap uses AI tools to help summarize information, sermons, common questions, that kind of thing. While we work hard to keep everything accurate, AI can sometimes make mistakes or hallucinate. So always double check with the source material.
Always good advice. Be a Nehemiah. Inspect the information for yourself.
Thanks for diving deep into the Zion Recap with us. We'll catch you next time. See you then.